Good morning. Yet again cut off yesterday. Didn't get done when I need to get done. I still have to take out the flywheel lock. I need to clean up some more around, especially the front end of this engine. There's plenty of oil in here. I want to change out at least this pulley here. I want to check the fitment of the resonator delete there. I want to check the intercooler lines with the turbo for any leaks all around. I'd like to try to get in here and change out that fuel filter. I think that's the original, 225 or so thousand miles ago. And then I need to just button it back up and see how well it runs and see if oil is still spilling out, and then see if this alternator wakes back up for me. If you've been following a little bit, you'll know that my alternator is close to being kaput and it's been oil drenched. I don't think when there's a diesel fuel leak that it caused much damage, so hopefully as before it will dry up when there's no oil splattering on it and start working fine for me. It's the 150 amp from the factory. I guess it's Bosch, and I'll just see what happens there. Every time the oil level got low and there was less splatter of oil on there actively, it would start charging again. So hopefully if I more permanently fix the oil leak, that's going to wake back up and I'll be fine. We'll see. So time to get started. Maybe I'll get done today. Before I get started, I just noticed every day I come out here there's a new puddle that's dripping right off of the end of this over here and ends up right here and runs downward toward the center of the driveway here. That's yesterday's. This is today's on top of the cardboard. I thought it was just excess water and coolant that kind of flowed down through the frame of the vehicle and then ended up dripping off at that point there, because it's not fast obviously, and that still might be it. But I need to watch that. It's not oil. I don't believe it's diesel fuel. It's not drying quickly, so I don't know. I gotta figure out what that is. Alright, so I've placed the took the flywheel lock out, put the original bolts back in. I believe the original bolts are slightly shorter and the ones that come with flywheel lock are slightly longer, just because they have the added space and the thickness of the lock where it goes in those places. I don't think those bolts actually hold anything in. They're just placeholders to put the lock in, maybe. That's just a guess though. Don't believe anything I say on these videos because I really don't know what I'm talking about. I just want people to see my experience as I work through these things. So if I say a torque spec or something like that in these videos, just double check it online and other more trustworthy sources than me, please. So while I'm down here though, I'm noticing oil or power steering fluid or transmission fluid or something just all over the place in different spots. I think a lot of it is from the spray up front getting all over things, like okay, that's nice. There's the alternator just covered in oil. But that's from the front main seal leak or whatever leak I've been dealing with up there. But it splattered and just came back across all these cross members and different, I mean, it's just everywhere. So even all the way back here on this pan. But I'm seeing it in odd places, like around seams and things. I don't know if you can see that right up in there. And just places where it looks conspicuously not like splatter from elsewhere. So with that said, you know, like the oil that's focused on just this side of the pan over here, around here, and up to this connector and wire here, you know, that could certainly be from something else. So what I'm going to do while I'm here is just wipe all this down, make it as dry as I can at all of these places. And as I get going again, if I don't have a leak out of the front of the engine again with oil, I will monitor and watch where new wetness appears, and maybe hopefully have a good sense if I've got other problems I need to work on. So that's my plan with that. So I've come to a revelation here. I've learned that, well, there we go. It's actually painted white under there. I had no idea. I've been working on this for a while. I found all this white paint. Stunned. Look at that. It's white. Who knew? Alright, about 10% done. Absolutely amazing how much crap is under here. I'm gonna hit this alternator next. There's the AC compressor is kind of coated also. So there's my little botch job. That hose was torn open and spilling fuel, actually, it seemed, all over the ground and the bumper. So I found this metal tape. Actually worked pretty well. It's been riding there for a few hundred miles. Alright, so I'm trying this with the intercooler and radiator. Condenser is just not even worth bothering with. I need to replace that. Like I said, it seems physically intact. It just has oil. Kind of, this one's not bad. The radiator's pretty bad in one spot. It's got some fresh oil over on that end. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if that's because if we're sitting or what, but just use real simple, not very high pressure washer here. Give it a nice rinse maybe. It's definitely got some splash on it from the oil from the seal problem, so at least I'm getting that off, and bugs and whatnot that are here. Alright, hose down the radiator and intercooler. Careful not to get water in there. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. It's so hot today it's going to dry out regardless of where it is on it. I'm going to wipe it down a little bit more on the flat surfaces to clean it up. Still looks pretty dirty, but a lot of the oil is off of there that splashed on it from either the condenser or the crankshaft seal leak. So let that dry out today. Probably blow it off and put it in the sun. And I think I'd take the opportunity to rinse off the inside of this bumper here. As you can see, it's just covered in oil and mess, the whole thing. So this is going to do much. I didn't want to use much detergent or anything on these items. I don't know what's corrosive or anything, but I know it can take rain splashes, so I figured I'd just rinse it for now, learn more about it later, and maybe do it properly or replace it later. So here, before I paint it, I'm going to scrub it down properly, but I need to, at least for now, just rinse off all the crap so it doesn't continue to get all around the engine compartment. Let's try that. See, environmentalists are getting a little dose right here on the earth, so I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it's clean. I'll do this for a few minutes. Alright, so as I'm letting the bumper and other parts dry, I decided to clean all the pulleys here. Changing that pulley later. It's actually going to be the next time I open things up and change out the condenser and everything else, so that's just a couple weeks away. Just need to get this back on the road quickly and make sure my oil seal's not still, my front crankshaft front crankshaft seal is not still leaking. So I cleaned off all the pulleys, oil off of them anyway. Used some degreaser carefully to not get inside the pulleys on the bearings, and then I used like some electronic cleaner to kind of put some pressure on there and just kind of blow out and clean the other stuff. It dries right away and isn't going to damage much of anything. So then I put the new serpentine belt on there. It's a Gates Micro V $27.99 thing from O'Reilly's. I'll probably change it out eventually anyway, so I didn't go with the crazy expensive ones, but so far so good on this belt. It soaks up oil nicely, I know, from previous experience. But make sure everything's all seated in here nicely. Use the, I think it's a 17 millimeter socket right there and a small breaker bar. I was able to move the tensioner pulley back this direction, and then I wrapped the whole thing. You can Google T1N serpentine belt pattern. It'll show you 100 images, but wrap the whole thing. This is one with the air conditioner, and I do the whole thing, and I leave this one loose over here on the side, so it kind of cuts across here, and then I'll pull the tensioner and then just slide it on, and it all snaps into place nicely. So that's there. Let me start. Actually, I'm gonna let stuff dry off a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna start putting some more parts back in it. And I played with the fitment of the resonator delete, and it seems as solid in there as possible. I do need to kind of go over all the hoses again just to see if there's something going on there, but I do want to get the OEM hoses for the upper intercooler and then going across down to this point, just because somebody said some things online and it spooks me, so I'm going to get the proper one. What else? Hosed out with degreaser and rinsed off a lot of the engine. Missed some spots like behind the tensioner there. It's got a bunch of oil. But once I get it all back up and running, I'm going to rinse it off nicely a few times. I cleaned out the alternator the best I could. It's at least not covered in oil now on the outside. Rotates freely with no noise. Bearings, everything, clutch all feels like it's proper. Cleaned out the underside, the back, top, everywhere around I could get it, a lot with alcohol. So nothing corrodes in there, and I don't blow up any bearings or anything, so hopefully that's going to wake back up for me here soon. I also want to do the vacuum pump seals. I've got the seal kit here. I just don't know, I don't know if it's necessary. I had a bunch of black muck here, from about here down, and Joel Sell with a Million Mile Sprinter MMS mentioned that that's a telltale sign of a vacuum seal or vacuum pump leak. None of it's come back since I cleaned it, and a whole lot of other stuff was generating oil in the engine compartment, so I'm still watching that to see what happens. I'm unfortunately a fan of cleaning things or fixing things that don't need to be fixed and ending up breaking things more, kind of like that front crankshaft seal, among other things. Leaving it alone for now, plus it's relatively easy access without having to take the whole front end apart, I believe. So I might change that out soon, just because I have the parts and it's a regular maintenance thing anyway, I suppose. But that will be coming soon. Maybe I'll make a separate video just on that. That said though, after I thoroughly rinsed the van before I finally pulled it back here, I let it sit overnight on a hill, and then when I went to start the van and get rolling, the brake pedal was hard as a rock for the first time ever. So I do want to go over, I mean, it pumped it a few times and it worked back to normal pretty quickly, but I do want to investigate the whole brake system, including those lines that have rust on them, the hard lines down there. Alright, so I'm going to let everything sit for a little bit and dry out over this way, and then I'm going to try to find out where all these bolts go in pieces. I remember most of it, but all of that right there is what was left over from the last time. So maybe I'll see if I can place some of these things that I left over last time. Who knows? Or I'll have some extra from here. We shall see. Alright, on to the next video in a moment. Skipped a few steps on the video. Got the radiator almost mounted and in here. It just kind of sits in there, and then attaches all the hoses, and then eventually locks in when you get that big cross beam across the top there, whatever it's called. That's something you don't get with my videos. There are proper names for pretty much anything. So I mistakenly got to this point a few minutes ago and realized that I forgot to put the fan back on. Now I got a little frustrated, and that's why I skipped a few steps. I didn't make a video putting the fan on because I was mad at myself for having to take everything back out and then bolt the fan in. But essentially slips back on there. I wiped it down, the oil that was on it. I didn't want to hose it. I don't know how sensitive that fan clutch is from everything I've heard about it. I bolted it back on, 8mm Allen key, something like that. Yeah, 8mm Allen key, but then tightening it down, ended up using this bit here. This bit here with a 1/2 inch adapter, and then used the big torque wrench again, and got, I think, 45 Newton meters or 33 foot-pounds, 45 Newton meters on there. And I used the screwdriver trick again in between the bolts to hold it. It's a little tricky, and I waited for it to spring loose and break my fingers on something, but got it in there okay. And so fan's on, clutch feels gooey still. I guess that's how it's supposed to be. Radiator's back up here. I've got a few different hoses to reconnect to it. This one here across the top, and then one down at the bottom. I want to learn more about this one here because it's all rusted at the bottom. Hard steel pipe down here connects from here and goes all the way over here from the, I guess it's the intake from the water pump then, or water pump exit. Comes out here, goes down underneath the whole fan assembly, and comes back up and inputs right here. So I've got that on there. It's on there. Another hose goes from here to right here. I guess that's an exit of some kind. I'll learn. No, exit would be sensible down at the bottom here. Comes back up. No, I gotta learn. Don't listen to me. Let me look at a few diagrams, watch some YouTube videos, and I'll maybe report back here. But anyway, I'm putting all the hoses back where they can. I didn't say they're gonna learn anything with these videos. But you get to see my mistakes and my corrections when I catch them. Sorry for not showing you video of the fan blade. It's pretty straightforward. And then it's on my list to replace too, by the way, is a fan blade and clutch. It's something newer. It looks kind of rusty and messed up, so but everything's cooling fine right now. That's why I'm not touching it just yet. I'm not making it priority. Radiator is a lot cleaner than it was. At least there's no bugs and junk attached to the front of it now. Intercooler is coming up next, and this nasty condenser over here. I don't know how well you can see that in the video, but it's just completely filled with oil and garbage. So it's not an expensive replacement. I might swap that out when I work on the air conditioning system. I don't know if my condenser or my compressor is okay or not. It spins. That's all I know about it. It's kind of a rust bucket. Still has the original Mercedes label part on the front of it though. Can't really see it down there. I'll find out. But definitely these lines, I don't know if you saw some other posts and things I had on Facebook. This line was severed and there's oil all over the interior here, inside here. Cleaned out most of it, but it's still caked in there some places, just all back in there. It was completely covered in a thick layer of oil over time. This discharge line from the condenser was completely cut open, probably from rubbing up against this plastic right here. So when I put the new one in, I'll look how it's supposed to be and put it in there properly. And if there's nothing there, I might put a little cushion or something in there just to help protect it a little bit longer, or give extra insulation around the hose or something just so it doesn't sever again. But that was a giant mess. Still is a giant mess. I don't have it fully cleaned. But I wrapped it with electrical tape, put two tight hose clamps on it, and just left it there. I'm not running the air conditioner. I don't think that's pressurized, or that funky patch job probably would have broken apart by now. Or showed signs of pressure or something. So I'm just not touching the AC right now. And it's not leaking crazy, not causing problems, so I'm just gonna worry about it later. Even though it's midsummer here in California, I could really use some air conditioning. Right now the windows down work just great for me, mostly. Next time I pull this open to change out the condenser and do the AC and maybe radiator and fan clutch and pulleys, I might work on rust abatement work all across here. It's not horrible. Like, I don't see holes poked in it, but I see some rust around here and there that I don't like, even up here on this little deck up here. But across here there's a little skinny, can't see it from the top here, but right underneath of here there's a little skinny chunk of metal back there. I don't know what it really supports. It's not really holding the weight of anything, but some hoses and whatnot are attached to it, and wires or zip tied to it. It's almost rusted out. It's just really weak, but I'll find out what I can do to change that out, or put something in there to strengthen it and get rid of all this rust here. Eventually this will turn out bad, so I need to clean it up and fix it before it gets too terrible. Maybe that time I'll look at the rusted brake lines as well, up just past the ABS module. You might be able to see them down there today. Let me get down in there. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but those are quite rusted down in there. Corroded all around. Firestone, I mentioned in an earlier video, changed them from back there, spliced into them and put fresh ones where there are holes, but left all the way here. The ABS lines come off pretty clean, and then right at the bottom there, they must have been sitting in a pool of battery acid or something, but they're all rusted for about 8 inches to 12 inches down there. So that might be something to check out when I dig in again. Continuing to button some of this stuff up, and well, getting closer.
Is there, and I just need to wipe it off with my dad, and then I need to put some more parts in, and it will be kind of good.
All right, Charlie, thank you. So I've got the intercooler in here, bolted in. I actually, I'll look it up later, but this is connected to the power steering fluid system, and I ran it underneath both of these pipes, underneath the intercooler hose here, and had to take it all off again and put it back on. Again, not a mechanic. But got that all lined up, and all the bolts here I have to find still to get that mounted properly. This is all in here, and these little funky side flange covers are on there. Maybe I'll learn the names for this stuff soon. Relatively clean down here in this trough. I'm going to put the rest of the items in there now. This is toast, but it's functional and not leaking. An auxiliary cooler, I guess, for transmission, I'm assuming. So we should be close here. I'm going to drop the condenser on and be done with that in just a few minutes here. Alright, so the condenser's on here mostly. Those little plastic shroud pieces around it. Condenser, like I said, is a total mess. Oil leaks, dings, all kinds of folds and holes and junk in there. But I can't seem to get it to line up against the holes on the intercooler very well, and can't find the bolts for it either. So do I let it hang there? Probably not a good idea. Let me see what I can find in the mess over here that's going to work there. I don't know if it's I see two holes and I can get a bolt through it easily, but I need something to capture it on the other side, or to tap into the size hole in the intercooler on the tab down there. There's something's not quite right. Let me figure that out. Getting closer. Got the condenser on there. Bolts all around, all cinched up. As ugly as it is, it's still sitting in there for now. Hopefully it's not actively leaking all over the place. Got the electric fan on there. Still have to connect that. I've got a problem with the connector, but if I pinch it together and then stick it in and tape it, it stays on there. I don't even know if the electric fan works or not. I need to test that still. But again, you know, no issues with the cooling of the van now after I replaced the water pump, and kind of don't want to mess with it just yet unless I need to. Got my fancy dancy Ace Hardware 13mm head bolts on here, replacing the ones I had to cut out. Whatever this cross member is here, I don't know what it's called, radiator support, something or other. went in nice and clean and solid. I've got the hood release. These little clamps here were kind of a pain to get back on there properly. They're cracked in the middle, but I think I squeezed them on there nicely. Everything appears in order. Just need to go over all the electrical connections, get this upper intercooler hose snapped back on, battery back in, headlights on, coolant, they put coolant in there, and that's about it. I think I'm forgetting something. I usually do. Heat shield. I'll scan through all my parts and see if I left anything out that's important. Hopefully not. And I gotta bolt that up under here in the horn. A few more little things. Getting closer and closer. Forgot to mention this sensor for the coolant level. I guess never worked because when I first got to the vehicle and looked at it, this wire was broken out. I should probably just pull this apart and try to repair it right now. I just want to get running first, but what's interesting is that the fail logic that it sends back, I guess, is a closed circuit. With an open circuit, it doesn't send anything back, it doesn't throw any codes, which I find that interesting. I'll learn more about it when I actually connect it. Still haven't been able to get this thing out. Something's funky with the little tab under here. I can't get it, but didn't need to. I'll try to salvage this connector and get this wire back in there. I don't know if it's a crimp or a solder, but I'll get that fixed maybe today. Still need to clean out the battery tray, yeah, and a few more things, but let's see if I can get it back together and get running soon. So putting on the upper intercooler hose, that snapped back in nice and tight with my little double O-ring in there, and elephant hose. I'm gonna start calling this elephant hose. Never heard it called that, thought it was the silliest thing in the world. Somebody just made it up, but apparently it's a thing. Maybe Europeans do that or something, I don't know. But there's the elephant hose. It's obvious where the name came from. And if you watched the earlier video, I'm just making video evidence here that I tightened up the bottom portion of the upper intercooler, the elephant hose right here, okay? So now nobody can say I forgot it and didn't do it. All right, so I popped off that connector for the coolant level sensor, and it's trash. I'm just gonna order a new one. It's all oxidized here. It's looking like the Statue of Liberty. It's kind of hard to see small stuff with this GoPro, but it's even cracked right there. It looks like this is supposed to be connected there somehow. I'm not gonna fix all that, solder it up and put it back together. I'm just gonna skip it for now, keep going as is, and order this particular connector with the actual conductor, the terminals inside of it and everything all pre-built. Hopefully it's cheap as the Mercedes OEM one. Hopefully I can find one and it's not expensive, or I can just duplicate what's going on here. I thought that was going to be a quick and easy, but definitely not, but glad I popped it apart just to see what the issue is. And hopefully having nothing connected is not going to throw a code or cause any problems. We'll see. Time to replace the coolant. Before I actually do it, I'm going to read and just make sure I'm not doing anything screwy. Last time I just poured it in until it was filled up and ran it, and it was good. I got a 50/50 here of the Xerox G05, which seemingly is what everybody uses in these T1N sprinters. Then I've got undiluted right here, a gallon of it, and a gallon of distilled water. So I can make 50/50 with this, and then if I need more than 2 gallons, I've got another gallon I've already pre-mixed. I think that's enough. I think I got by with only 2 gallons last time. We will see. Now, do I mix it separately and then pour it in? Or can I pour in a little water, a little coolant, a little water, a little coolant, a little water, a little coolant, or all the water and all the coolant? I think I'm gonna have to Google that one. We'll see, and I'll do it however majority rules. And then I'll report back once I start getting in there. Alright, so it took just a hair under 2 gallons, and I just pre-mixed it and then poured it in. I don't know if that's necessary or not. I couldn't find any information on it, but I figured that couldn't hurt. And I'm watching for drips in water. Those were already there. That was a little bit of overflow, and I'm guessing that just a hair over the max line there is going to be okay, because the water pump and hoses and everything aren't filled up, so I might even need to top that off again, I'm guessing, once I crank the engine. But back there, you see that line right there, that's water that I mentioned earlier in this video or previous one, and it's not going away, and I haven't seen it drip, but it keeps, oh, I just saw it drip, it keeps staying wet. So I need to examine that. It actually looked like it had a little pink hue to it, which scares me about transmission fluid. But is it possible that there's pink coolant somewhere else running around here? Like, what's running through this right here? Is this possibly pink, and then the lines go back there and it's dripping back there somewhere? But it looks like it's coming right off the edge of this. I'll try to track it down. And if we do the white paper towel test that I saw online from you-know-who, yeah, it's actually pink. So I'm guessing that's going to be corn. It's not really super oily, so I don't think it's transmission fluid. But yeah, it's definitely pink. So pink coolant, maybe? I'll Google it, search Facebook forums, see what's going on there. But it's actively dripping from up here. Let me get a closer look over there and see exactly where it's coming from. Well, let me just crawl under there now. Maybe. Dirty enough. I don't have eyewear on. No, can't see it. Let me put some eyewear on, protection on, to get under there. All kinds of rust and oil. Oh, all buttoned up, headlights and all. Still ugly, but maybe functional now. I went over everything twice. Think about everything connected that's supposed to be connected. I didn't lose too many nuts and bolts. I lost this this nut on top of here on the positive terminal of the battery, down in the muck there somewhere. I could not find it, so I stole it off of the heat shield right there. So I might get a little rattle until I find a nut for that, but I just want to see if I can get the thing started. And fingers crossed. So I topped off the oil properly, checked the power steering fluid, batteries connected, so I've got lights, found the keys. Let's see if it cranks. I took the flywheel lock out. I don't know, let's see if I'm forgetting anything. Well, it started right up. All right, I heard some noise and then it got quieter. That might have been the water pump being empty and then drawing in. Battery light's still on. I need that to run for a little while and dry out completely again, I guess. Don't worry about all those other lights right now. We'll talk about those later. The battery voltage is at 12.1 right now. So I can drive it for a little bit. Let it idle for a few minutes and just see what's going on. Let me look up front, see if anything glaring is happening to it. Serpentine belt is staying on. Nothing being flung down there right now, oil-wise. Don't know what to think yet. I will report back here in a few. Quick update after idling for about 5 or 6 minutes. I have a couple of oil drops, though they're not coming from behind where the crankshaft seal is and dripping off here. And they also look a little watery, so maybe this vibration is causing some drips to come out. I'm gonna shut her down in a minute. And see if wipe around in there and see where it's coming from, see if it makes any sense. If it's a crank seal, I'm gonna probably murder somebody. Maybe not. Well, it does look like fresh oil all underneath the bottom of the alternator here. I don't know if that was sitting in there and came out because I was running and revving the engine a little, but it's also right on the edge of this up here, coming out of that hose from, that's going to the radiator. Yeah, can't really see up in there. Something, I don't think I wiped any of that out, but definitely got some drops here. That's upsetting. It's clean under here, it seems, behind the balancer, and that's a good thing, I guess. What's getting on the underside of the alternator here? Everything's dry up there. Damn. I guess I'm gonna reach up in there and feel around and see if I can determine if it's against the case of the engine there or what's happening. This is a little aggravating. Well, while I was under here, I found the source of my pink, my second-hand rack and pinion. It's power steering fluid. I don't know if that's repairable or what, but it's on there. Well, at least I know where my power steering fluid leak is. I went through and looked at everything wet, glossy, sweating, close to wet, possibly wet, wiped it down, dried it off again. I'm just wondering if there was a bunch of oil sitting in the alternator. I don't know. That electronic cleaner stuff I blasted out of there just loosened it, and then when it started running it spit it all out. I'm hoping that's it. I'm fearing worse, but we shall see. It's as clean as it's been for a long time in here, but I'm going to start back up and see if any new drops come flying out. I might drive around the block. At idle speeds, nothing new is coming out. So everything seems kind of in check. That's last time I didn't get anything out until I revved the engine a little bit. Maybe Alright, just about 2,000 RPM for a few seconds. Alright, nothing out there yet. That's good. I'm going to drive around the block and see what it does. Oh, close the lid, the hood, bonnet, whatever you're going to call it. Revved it up to about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM a little bit. Got like light splatter, looks mixed. Oil, something else, maybe some degreaser cleaners remnant. So hopefully that's all it is. Let me drive around a little bit. Took it for about a 10-minute drive. Looks like the oil isn't dripping. That's the old oil spots there. But it does look like I've got some coolant hitting here, some golden colored coolant. Let me let it sit for a minute, see what's going on.